name's Siobhan Sweet. Welcome back to my kitchen. So today we're going to make one of my favourites, as I always say, cheese scones. Now, some of you may say scones, if you're from Liverpool, we may say scones, I don't know, but that's what I call them. So these nice cheese scones, really, really simple and gorgeous. There's a couple of top tips I'll give you as we're going along, just to make sure we're doing everything right. So in the bowl here, it's a really quick this. I've got some flour. Now, flour. I never ever use self-raising flour, but my daughter had this in the cupboard, so I thought I'd use it up. The reason being, as a pastry chef, you need to mix your own flour, so you put your own baking powder with a plain flour, and that's why I never keep self-raising. But that was her, so I wanted to use it up. So this is self-raising, because I know a lot of you do have self-raising flour at home. And the reason, as a pastry chef, some things need different quantities of baking powder in, like a Victoria sponge would need as much as a scone, so I would adapt the recipe. So it's far easier to make sure you have your baking powder and your plain flour. Also, top tip, make sure your baking powder is in date. It should only last for about 6 months now. I can't tell you, I looked at the date of mine and it's over 6 months yesterday. So there is a little test you can do. Just get a little bit of water in a cup and put a teaspoon of baking powder in it, give it a stir, leave it for a second. It starts to fizz, it will still activate. So I'm alright to use mine, but I will be going out to get a new one because I was a bit horrified at the date on it. Right, so in here, I've already put the baking powder. So I've got, it says a teaspoon. Now I don't like working in teaspoons, it's 4 grams, that's what I would work, to 225 grams of self-raising flour. That's what I've used today. So a top tip, and this is a real top tip, this one, and not many people do it, you need to sieve your flour 3 times. What that will do, it will create air in it, okay? And also combine the baking powder, I can taste it actually in the air. And that will make it really nice, light and fluffy, because a lot of people make scones and think it's really easy to do, but actually it's getting that lightness through it and being really careful. So in there, I'm going to add 55 grams of butter. And I'm just going to take that to breadcrumbs. So again, like anything we do, when you're doing your breadcrumbs, get the air into it. You just use your fingertips to rub, not your hands, because that's where you make your mistakes. If you get this butter too hot, it's not going to work. Lots of people say to me, I can't make pastry, I've got too hot of hands. It's not, you're just doing it wrong. You've just got to use your fingertips. Hello, Rolo is back. I reckon I can time you by a clock. Within 2 minutes, he's off his bed and he's out here sniffing when I start cooking. Checking for all the bits that drop on the floor. I've also got that to a nice fine breadcrumb. You can see that there, nice and fine. Okay. Then I'm going to add the cheese to it. Now, I've got a nice strong, I think it was a cheddar cheese, Cathedral City it was, that's what I've used. But it doesn't matter, you can use any cheese. And I'm adding 120 grams of cheese into the mix. Okay, now I've done a little bit extra, because I've got another 20 grams extra. I'm just saving that for the top. Now, this is another little top tip today. I've got some lovely Parmesan cheese. Okay, so this is Tesco's Finest. It's 30 months aged, that one there. You can see that there. But, you know, just use any Parmesan, but this is a really nice strong one, so it's going to give the flavour. That's 2 grams. That looks like a lot more than 2 grams there, doesn't it? But that is because I've grated it. In fact, I'm going to save a tiny bit back the top to mix in that other cheese. And then blend that together, just roll it round. Just put the flour over it. Okay. Pinch of salt. I've got to leave that pinch of salt, I haven't added that yet. And that is it. We're just going to add the liquid to it now. So in here I've got 140 grams of milk. And I'm going to blend that together. So you want it quite soft, you don't want a tight dough. And you don't want to overwork it. This is the next thing that people do. They think it's a bread and they start working it. You've got to do it really lightly. Lorraine, could you change the cheeses to raisin? Yes, of course you can. If you do that, you're going to have to add some sugar. So I've took sugar out of this recipe. You might want about 60 grams of sugar in here, just to sweeten them up a bit for your sultanas. Anything else? Is that all right, Lorraine? Yeah? Tiny bit more. And that's all of it in there. Okay, just mix that together. These are lovely fresh out of the oven. I had to try one, of course, when they came out, you know, just to make sure the recipe was all right before I gave it out to you, you know. That's my excuse anyway. So, a bit like when we're rolling out pastry, exactly the same. You're just going to skim. You don't want too much on your table because you don't want to add any more flour to that. Just gently pass it down. You could give a very gentle knead if it's not quite together, but just gently. Do not overwork it. Okay, let's get that off my hands. And then we're just going to lightly roll. Now, the next mistake people do, they roll them a little bit too thin. You don't want too thin. You want about 2 centimetres. That's it there. And you can just, if you get a bit thin, you can just take it back up by rolling it back around again. So that's about right. And then we're going to use a cutter. Obviously, it's up to you what cutter you use, but I think that's a nice size there. I think it's a 60 ml. So just press down. Don't try and twist them, okay, because you can lose the layers sometimes. So it's just press and then pop it out onto your tray. And I've already got a tray here lined. Now, we've talked about baking powder before, I know, but it is really important when you're doing this to leave them for 5 minutes before they go in the oven. No longer really, because baking powder will react. As soon as it hit the moisture, it's starting to work. So if you're a little bit slow, I mean, we used to have to make probably 1,000 of these, so we were quite fast at doing them when I was in the trade at the Grosvenor. And we'd do lots of afternoon tea there. So we'd be very, very fast. Because we don't want to start overworking before they go into the oven. Just knead that back together again, just gently, don't overwork it again. And that's it. Then to finish them, I won't cut them all out. To finish them, we're just going to put, can you see how quite close I put them as well? That's another thing. Sometimes if I was doing a lot, I'd offset them because I want the steam. The steam will help to give them a good lift, a good rise as well. So I've got a little bit of egg yolk I had left over from something else I was making, and I've got a touch of milk in there. If you haven't got an egg yolk, you could use a whole egg. If you don't want to use a whole egg, then you could just use a little bit of milk, so you don't need a lot. Good morning, Miss Sweet. Hello, Ebony, how are you? So just gently, and again, be careful when you egg wash. People over egg wash. If it's dripping down the side, it won't rise evenly. It will rise on a slant. So you just want enough to glaze it. So if you want a really shiny glaze, if I was doing sultana scones, then I would use egg or egg yolk. I'd probably use a couple of egg yolks and an egg. Just because I want that nice high shine. With cheese on it, you're not going to see it anyway, so don't worry about that. And then I'll literally just get the cheese on top. I'll mix that with the parmesan. Parmesan, if you haven't got parmesan, don't worry. You can just do it without, it's fine. It just gives you that extra kick. Blend that together a little bit, and I'm just going to pop those on the top there, and then that'll just melt. Now, they don't take too long in the oven to cook. I cook these at 185 for 17 minutes. These took yesterday, I timed them. So after 15 minutes, just have a little look and see if they're done. If not, just give them an extra couple. You don't want to overcook them. I'll just bring those to them. This will make 8. I've got a few more here I'll cut out, but you can see what they look like there. Okay, so they're quite nice, and that's the sort of size you want. I'm going to leave those to rest just for 5 minutes. And this is, obviously I'm not going to let you work, but that's what they're going to look like when they're cooked. I mean, how lovely are those? Stunning. Hi Sean, how are you? All right, so that is it. I told you it was a very quick one today. And these are stunning. As soon as they come out of the oven, get some butter on them. A nice cup of tea. I always say a cup of tea, don't I? A nice cup of tea, and they are stunning. So next week, I'm going to be doing a biscuit week, I've decided. So I'm going to show you how to make different types of biscuits. I'm going to do Viennese, I'm going to do chocolate cookies. What else am I going to do? I'll have a think anyway, but that's what it is. It's biscuit week next week. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely weekend and see you on Monday. Bye everybody.